Hello everyone, welcome to a new episode of Happy Home Space Clearing. Today I would love to talk to you about 10 potential reasons why a property isn't selling. And of course, this is more about the intangible reasons. So, not the reasons that a real estate agent will talk to you about in terms of what the house should look like or in terms of the pricing. So, all of these things I would assume a seller took into consideration when they put their house on the market. But what I would really love to dive into is the intangible, the unseen reasons why a property isn't selling in terms of the energy. So this comes, of course, with experience over the last decade that me and my mom have been doing these space clearing assessments, and oftentimes we work with people who have been trying to sell their property for quite a long time and they haven't been able to. And so we put together a list of the 10 main reasons that we found over the last decade why houses haven't been selling. And by addressing those reasons through space clearing, oftentimes those houses then were sold. So let's start with reason number 1, and that's a very big reason. It's low frequency in terms of the energy of the space of your home or the property you're trying to sell. And that includes many different facets. So I'm just going to give a few examples here. For example, if anything happened in this property, and it might even have happened before you moved in from the previous owners or the previous tenants, but any energy or the frequency of illness, death, divorce, any lived traumas, trauma of bankruptcy, for example, any stuck energy. This is to say that homes absorb the emotions of past inhabitants. Anything we feel, that we work through, also negative thoughts, everything gets absorbed into the home. Of course, that works both ways. Joyous and sorrowful energies can be absorbed into a home. Here, space clearing really comes in and helps release any of those low frequencies, any stagnant energy. It creates a much lighter, more welcoming atmosphere. So just a few more examples, like any unresolved conflict. It doesn't even have to be a full-on divorce, but any unresolved conflict that has been going on for quite a long time, you can find energetically in a home, including also sadness, anger. All of that can linger in the space. What me and my mom came across quite frequently, it's not just the negative emotions or the negative events that we live through in our homes. There is something what we like to call unfulfilled intentions. So, of course, we all have dreams and goals and desires we wish to achieve in our lives. And so when we have these unfulfilled dreams or intentions, this also can tie into the property and it can create an energetic blockage because, of course, any unfulfilled intention will bring with it some form of suffering. And it's a frequency that we find in people's homes. Oh, somebody lived here who hasn't lived up to their dreams or their expectations. And again, this can be beautifully released and cleared through space clearing. What we also oftentimes find is even if the house is empty and has been empty for a while because they already moved out, they took out all the furniture and all their belongings, we still come across the frequency of clutter, of an unloved, neglected property in terms of people who lived there who, for whatever reason, were cluttering their space. And of course, it doesn't have to go to the extreme of a hoarder, which was a particular energy that is on the end of the spectrum there. We also had evaluated properties where hoarders had been living, but even just clutter in general, like every single space is cluttered. There's, of course, people who love to live in places that are completely cluttered because that's how they feel cozy. But that doesn't really speak to potential new buyers who are more of a, let's say, minimalistic frequency that they look for, or even just something neutral that is not cluttered and not minimalistic. But those are all frequencies that potential buyers intuitively feel. Even if they come into a space and it's already unfurnished, they can feel that cluttered vibe that has been happening before. So all of that is reason number 1 Now, reason number 2 is the opposite of that, and we came across that as well. It's too high of a frequency. You might think that doesn't make any sense. Like, why would anybody complain about high frequency energy? Isn't that what we all want? And I have to say no, because, for example, spiritual people who have been practicing their spirituality, their yoga, their meditation, any type of spirituality in their homes, they will bring up the frequency of the space. But not everybody's looking for that energy. Not everybody had their spiritual awakening. Not everybody's interested in having that spiritual awakening or a spiritual energy in their home. So anybody coming in, a buyer who is spiritual, they will feel that and they will be very drawn to the home. But if for whatever reason in that kind of market, spiritual buyers aren't found easily, then of course it would be easier to neutralize the energy so that there is a mass appeal for the property. So anybody can come in and appreciate the neutral energy in there. And that also goes with deeply religious energy. So if you or your spouse practice your religion in there, whatever that religion might be, again, not everybody is religious or interested in religion. And many people are atheists or they practice a very different kind of religion. So again, it would be in your interest to remove that religious frequency and to neutralize it so that other people can make it their own. Number 3, and that happens quite a lot, there are spirits inside your home. And they might not even be the evil spirits that everybody immediately knows, oh my God, my house is haunted, the poltergeist kind of energy, even though my mom and I removed quite a few poltergeists by now. But sometimes it's just spirits that linger around. It can even be the original owners if the house is old. If you purchase this house and it's really old property, the original owner might still be living there. And it might not have bothered you at all. Maybe you didn't perceive it, you didn't realize it maybe. But sometimes buyers are intuitive and they don't have to be full-on mediums or people with a spiritual antenna that absorb this kind of information and they know, oh my God, they're spirits. It just happens on a subconscious level that they perceive, there's something we are not quite sure about. I'd rather not buy this house. So removing spirits can do wonders. In some more hardcore cases, sometimes these original owners, if they're still living in there in spirit form, they might be meddling with your whole selling. So they might be meddling and really mess with the potential buyers. So it can get quite, on a subconscious mind level, it can get quite disturbing because they know how to meddle. Reason number 4. And again, my mom and I came across this a number of times. It might not even be the energy of your property as such. I like to call this reason your own karma. If you bring forward any karma from a previous life that is related to money, so money karma, abundance blocks, or any karma related to property and homes, this might hinder you to sell your property, or especially to sell it at a profit. You might sell it at a loss instead if there's karma involved. For example, I will just share a case study about this. I was doing an assessment for a woman who was trying to sell a number of properties and she wasn't managing. And as I checked her own energy, what was quite clear to me was a karma she brought forward from a past life where she felt betrayed by somebody, and she went to that somebody's home and burned it down. And in the process, she even killed an innocent child who was living there in the property. And so she brought forward this karma into this life. And as I shared this with her, the exact past life visions that I had, I asked her, have you felt betrayed in this lifetime also? Because it seems like a major theme that you're bringing forward from this past life. And the story that she shared was incredible because she felt betrayed by a lot of family members and quite severely so. In this lifetime, she wasn't able to keep any permanent home. There was always something happening. Either she felt threatened because of domestic violence and she had to flee her home, give it up, and even move across states to find her peace. She was homeless for 7 or 8 months as well. And so there was this whole tragedy around finding a peaceful, permanent home for her. She was just always traveling, moving, never really settling and finding her peace. And she understood that this is karmic in nature because of what she did in a past life. And so for those properties to sell and for her to not feel attracted to properties that might not sell in the first place, she had to deal with her karma, meaning she needed a deep healing of this karma to work with forgiveness energy of everybody involved, really heal this betrayal energy that came from past lives, so that she wouldn't find herself in this situation anymore where she would lose homes and buy properties that wouldn't sell, etc. And again, this is just one example. There's many, many different examples of different karmas that people bring forward. And just so you're aware, it might not be the property itself, it might be your own energy. Reason number 5, it's not the property as such, but it's the land below your property. So any land can hold on to trauma energy, and we don't even know what happened on this land thousands of years ago when we buy a property, but there can be the energy of trauma, of war, of conflict, of any kind of trauma people lived through. I came across quite a number of properties in the US that were built on indigenous lands where the indigenous were slaughtered, they were killed, and so they cursed the people who came in to slaughter them, and the land was cursed where the properties were built. So there, what is needed is called a land clearing or a land healing that will, of course, at the same time then bring up the frequency of the property too, because once it's built on trauma land, or cursed land even, the property will have low frequency itself and might not sell because of it. And there's also numerous cases that I had when I did evaluations where properties were built on top of ancient graves. So of course you wouldn't have seen it once you built a property on top because it was ancient. They didn't know there were graves underneath. And so the spirits of those, they were in the house, in the property, because the house had been built on top of their graves, and so they were furious. And there's all sorts of stories that I could share here, but I'm just, gonna give these few examples here. So land clearings, land healings might be very recommended if that's what happened there. Now, reason number 6 that a property might not sell, and again, this is fairly frequent, if it's a home you have an emotional attachment to, be it because you lived there a long time, be it because you built it yourself, you saw your kids grow up there, or you just, lived through very memorable times, you had happy moments there, then there might be an energy cord binding you to the home. And it might not even be you, it might be your spouse. Once there's this emotional attachment, it won't sell. It just won't. It happened so many times where we evaluated homes and there was this strong attachment that we can pick up on quite easily. And there's a literal cord cutting ceremony we will do to facilitate the sale of the property then, so that there's no attachment whatsoever. Because again, people who come in, potential buyers, they are all intuitive on some level and they feel this house is not really free. This house doesn't feel it's free. They feel that. Even though they can't put words into it to explain what it is they're feeling, but subconsciously they will feel, no, this is not my home. Literally. So they won't buy the property because it's just not energetically available. Reason number 7, and I have a whole podcast episode already on it. It's about black magic. It's a case study from Brazil where a woman that was living in a house was confronted with a lot of black magic. Black magic in some cultures, it's very prevalent. People go to sort of witches, witch doctors, people who specialize in black magic, and they buy their services to harm somebody. If black magic is present in a home, in a family home, it will affect everyone who's living there. Their health can get affected, their fortunes, anything really. And of course, again, the frequency of the house goes down and any potential buyer will feel that there's something off there. I will let you listen to that podcast episode yourself if you want to understand more about this particular case study. And then reason number 8, it's the evil eye. And again, I have a whole episode about the evil eye that you can go listen to. Again, this is a very cultural thing, and in many cultures around the world, they practice this. You can have somebody who sends this kind of negative energy to somebody, especially when people are jealous of your good fortunes, or because you're happily married, or because you married the person they were in love with, and they're just jealous because you seem to be happy. This is fairly common in many cultures. And most often, though, it's not something that is paid for. It's just somebody who has a lot of negative energy towards you, negative intentions. They're not happy for your success, be it in your love life, be it in your business life. And they project their unhappiness, their jealousy, their envy in such extreme forms that energy will affect you, your family members, and your property. This is, again, very low level frequencies that are intuitively felt by potential buyers. And reason number 9, I call it the haunted objects. So again, me and my mom came across lots of properties where we found objects that were, let's call it, possessed by spirits, or there was a spirit attachment to those objects. Sometimes those objects were second-hand or vintage objects that were purchased. I have an episode that is coming up in the near future about a gramophone that was bought that brought in a spirit that was attached to that gramophone that came from the 20th century, 1910, I believe. And as soon as that gramophone came to the owner's home, it just started to feel very haunted in there. And I can't wait to share that episode with you all because it's quite a special episode. And then also I had a recent case study of a spiritual necklace that my client bought. And that was a new necklace. It wasn't secondhand. It was just bought on one of those spiritual stores where you can buy any sort of spiritual necklaces. And it was made out of crystal beads. And again, this necklace came with spirit attachment and even a sort of portal where spirits can travel through. That episode is also up on my podcast in case you want to listen to that. So yes, haunted objects, it's fairly common. You never know what you buy, be it secondhand, be it new. Sometimes we are drawn to objects, of course, for different reasons. And we don't listen to our intuition if something feels off. But yeah, we might have objects in our homes that come with spirit attachment. And again, any potential buyers, as long as the object is still in the house, they will feel that. And the last reason I want to mention here, it's reason number 10. If your house is built on a vortex or ley lines or has geopathic stress, people who are intuitive and, they sense these kind of energies, they might not buy the property. Now, unfortunately, sometimes even space clearing can't help because sometimes we're not allowed to close a vortex. So if there is this high spiritual vortex in your home and we're not allowed to close it or to move it, then it might affect your buyer's perception of the space. And again, I have a whole episode about what vortexes are. A vortex happens when two energy lines cross, so two ley lines. So sometimes people only have one ley line. There's not a crossing, there's no vortex, but there is a ley line in the property. And I had a client, for example, she had a ley line right through her bedroom, and for many years she couldn't sleep because her bed was directly on that ley line. And intuitively, one night she just woke up and decided to move her bed to the other end of the room. And by doing so, she started to sleep somewhat better as she brought me in to give an assessment of her space. And I told her there's a ley line here. She understood that that's why she had all these nightmares and she was not sleeping well. She had insomnia. Ley lines can mess with a property as well. I have this whole episode on geopathic stress, where I go into water veins under the property, stagnant water, that you can listen to understand about geopathic stress. But yes, if a buyer is sensitive to all these energies, then they might not buy the property. All right, so I gave you 10 of the most common reasons that my mom and I find when we do space clearing assessments. So if you are in need, you want to sell a property or a number of properties and they haven't been selling and you just don't know why, feel free to consult with us. We offer free assessments, so you understand if it's even needed, if space clearing might be one of the reasons that is needed for your property to sell, or if it's something else that a real estate agent would rather be able to help you with, when it comes to pricing or staging or all the other things that are needed to make a property sell. So have a beautiful day, everyone. Bye-bye.